I'm Robert Cardoza, and you're watching On the Street. This is the intersection of business and politics. This is where I analyze all the data that's been taking place throughout the United States, the world for that matter, and put it all into one great big funnel, see what drops out, do an analysis, and give you a nonpartisan, non-biased analysis of what's going on there. I want to remind everybody that coming up next is going to be the good news and the bad news. You're going to find it interesting. We're going to talk about tax preparation companies and some of the lies that they're trying to put out, the fraud they're trying to put out on television. I shouldn't say lies because that's not a nice word, but that's what it is. But right now, before we do that, let's talk about strategic planning for you and for your business. And I'm with James Conaway. James is the CEO and founder of Conaway & Conaway. He has all the authority in his business with the exception of one person, and that's his wife Lorraine, who really is the boss. I want you to know that. Matter of fact, I'm surprised that she wasn't here today. She must have just given him one of those, those weekend passes, one of those kind of things. So basically, Jim, you and Lorraine are really connected at the hip because you guys, besides being married, I was going to say it's a great marriage for your business as well as your individual lives.
We actually started as business partners and ended up getting married.
Oh, so it was that way?
It pretty much was that way, absolutely.
Well, that's perfect. Now, when we left for the break, we were talking about someone coming into your office for a strategic plan, and let's just say business and personal, because they're really interrelated. You can do one or the other, but if you're in business, you need to have both.
Yes.
And so they're going to answer either a questionnaire and or an interview, maybe both.
Both.
And from that, you're going to gather data. You're going to find out what their wants and their needs and those things are.
Absolutely.
When you get all done with this, I'm assuming that the me not being sophisticated, I'm going to walk in with nothing in my hands, and you're going to need something to either verify what I've been telling you, or to at least analyze what the real world is all about, right? Sort of like what we do here on the street.
Yes.
So you're going to send me out with some homework.
Yes.
What is that?
Well, the first thing we do is we do interview and we find out what's in your heart, the passions, the things that are driving you. Then we want to know your taxes. Real simple. Give us a tax return. We actually look at it differently than tax advisors do. We look at it from a different angle. The second thing we want is we want anything associated with your finance. The third thing we want is we want to know your business. So we look at P&Ls, we look at advertising, we look at marketing agreements, we look at partnership agreements, the whole 9 yards. What we have found is that the strategic planning around how you structure your business, your finance, your wealth, can have a dramatic impact on your financial freedom. It's just absolutely mind-blowing. And every step along the way, we seek the best possible advice from tax advisors and legal advisors and whatever specialties come up.
So you become a liaison of professionals and you bring them all in and do a think tank with all of these individual professionals so that all of you can better serve your client. Is that about right?
That's correct. And I look at it this way. I don't care how bright your financial guy is. I don't care how bright your tax guy is or your legal person. But if they're not talking to the other members of your team, there's a disconnect there. And that disconnect could cost you a lot of money.
And so if you're a businessman and you maybe have a very successful business, probably so, or they wouldn't be in your office anyway, not necessarily very successful, but successful. Okay? And because you have to start somewhere and you want to build that success. But my guess is that there are very few times that you can't find some segment in the operating business where someone is overspending and just doesn't know that he has options, or she.
Typical thing that we find is that, let me back up and express it in a slightly different way.
Sure.
What we see is we see the typical business person. They've gotten to the point in their business where they're managing the business and they have wealth and they have income coming in. And the problem that they're having is that their talent is their business, not their estate, their wealth.
Right.
And so what's going on is you have a split of opinion or a split of focus. And that's never a good thing. So what we're going to bring to the table is we're going to allow that person to focus clearly on the things that they want to focus on and have everything else farmed out to professionals.
So basically what you're saying to me, if I'm hearing you right, is we're talking about the difference between rich and wealthy. And the difference in rich is how much money you make, and wealthy is how many assets do you have.
That's an interesting way of putting it, and that would work, yes. We love to work with getting people from the I'm successful to the I'm now independently successful. That transition is a lot of fun to watch, and it's a lot of fun to see the passions come out.
And the calmness from security.
Oh, please.
Absolutely.
That sleep at night, it's all working. Don't worry about it. It's okay. You got people in place.
So before we run out of time, I want you to give that website and your phone number contacts one more time. And I want to remind everybody, you know, if you visit Jim at his office in Tustin in person, or whether it's on the telephone, what you're going to get is a feeling of family. When you walk in there, everybody treats you as though they've known you 100 years. And Jim, give out your website.
Thank you. That's Conaway and Conaway.com. That's CONAWAYAND, and the phone number is 888-266-2929.
You know, one of the things that we haven't talked about, and I should touch on it here briefly, is that both you and Lorraine travel around the country. You're doing public speaking for a number of firms. You also, as a matter of fact, Lorraine is currently writing a book.
Yes.
And I don't know to what extent you want to get into that, but basically you're recognized all over the country and all over the world, and you're well connected with a lot of professionals. So if business people or even individual successful people come to you and they just don't have the resources. Now, I'm not talking about money. They don't have the contacts, the professional contacts to help them. You do.
Yes. Yeah, it's like the Miranda rights.
Yeah.
If you cannot afford an attorney something like that, essentially.
Yeah. And the nice part about that is once they understand the credibility and the honesty of your firm, which starts at the top, then they can feel very comfortable about the people that you are suggesting or referring them to, which is a big thing.
Absolutely.
So, Jim, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here. We want to have you on again in the near future. I hope you'll consider doing that with us.
Thank you so much, and absolutely.
That's great. I want to remind everybody, you're watching On the Street. This is the intersection of business and politics. You can see what's going on. We're trying to give you all of the information you need to make good, prudent judgments, both business-wise and personally, so that you can be free of the anxiety of planning. People like Jim Conaway, they're an investment that the returns are greater. I'm Robert Cardoza.